Okay, so Payday 3's 14th update releases on May 26th, which for me is tomorrow. While I'm not necessarily the biggest fan of its paid party powder heist, I think the rest of Update 14 is genuinely one of the better updates the game has received. We'll be diving into Armour 2.0 and how it fantastically executes on the system that was outlined in the initial blog post back in 2024, without just being a bandage solution of bringing back Payday 2's armor system. We'll also be taking a look at the new Justicar revolver, which is none other than the iconic Judge from Payday 2 returning to Payday 3 completely for free alongside the paid party powder heist, which I have already made a complete video on, but will be touching on again, so this video alone houses all of my thoughts on Update 14. In addition to all of the new content this update brings, Update 14 contains some very welcome balance changes as well as some skill tweaks that make the game feel much harder in exactly the right ways. I mean, this update makes a change to the ammo economy that just so happens to be the ammo funnel and replenish nerf that we needed all along. As always, there will be timestamps for each chapter of the video, so you can skip to any particular section you're most interested in, and don't worry, by the end of this video I will explain what I mean by the title of this video. First of all, we should start with the system that we've been waiting for the longest, Armour 2.0. This new armor system sees a complete overhaul to how you go about choosing and equipping your armor, as well as messing around with the stats and types of armor available. It isn't just the different types of armor that you can choose between, now you have a more granular control over the plate carrier you take, as well as the armor chunk types that will sit within each slot. The three types of armor are quite well known at this point, but to recap, you've got the resistant plate, which will take permanent trauma damage, so will pretty much never be able to regenerate up to full armor without the aid of an armor repair kit or armor bag. Once you've taken some damage, some of the armor will flash red in a sort of limbo state, where if you get to cover in time, that section of the armor will regenerate after 1 second per resistant plate that your armor frame is carrying, but the rest will be lost as permanent trauma damage. To counterbalance this plate's limited supply of armor, resistant plates boast a whopping 60% damage reduction, so each chunk will last for quite some time. As an added bonus, this plate won't negatively affect the amount of downs you have at all. As we'll talk about in a little more detail shortly, each armor frame comes with 4 maximum downs, and the different types of armor chunk you equip will all affect this number, except for these resistant plates. The second armor chunk type is another one that any Payday 3 player should be familiar with, the adaptive plate. Now, inexplicably, and I would argue frustratingly, changed from purple to green. This plate type will always regenerate to full armor, regardless of how much damage it's taken, provided the entire chunk hasn't been broken. This plate takes 1.5 seconds to regenerate, so only half a second more than the resistant plate, but it comes with a penalty of removing 1 down from your plate carrier for each adaptive armor chunk you have equipped. As this plate is a little bit more forgiving than the resistant plate, it comes with half of the damage resistance, this time only having 30% resistance. The third, final, and completely new to Payday 3 type of armor plate is the impact plate. This plate will regenerate to full armor regardless of how much damage it takes or whether or not the plate breaks. This is essentially the armor type we've seen in Payday 2 and Payday the Heist. As this is the armor type you're almost guaranteed to be able to upkeep throughout an entire heist, it's balanced out by also removing one of your maximum downs and having a 3-second regeneration time as well as 0% damage resistance. What this means is the amount of damage your armor takes is equivalent to the amount of health damage you would take if you had no armor. So if you're running a single plate of this, expect to be in and out of cover every now and again to maintain a consistent supply. But if you're running a 4-plate armor frame full of impact armor, you're going to need to wait 12 full seconds in cover for your armor to completely regenerate. As these regeneration times stack up, I would highly suggest mixing and matching different armor types into your plate carriers so that you can tailor the regen time to your specific needs. Of course, to equip these different armor plates, you're going to need an armor plate carrier. We have 4 to choose from, ranging from 1 to 4 chunks of armor respectively, but it doesn't stop there. Each armor plate carrier comes with a different passive ability, as well as a tweak to the amount of ammo you can carry, a speed penalty, and a different amount of consumable slots. We've gone over all of these in the past, so I won't spend too much time explaining them, but for a general overview, the specialist frame, which unlocks first at level 0, has 2 slots for armor plates, allows you to carry 3 consumables, doesn't affect how much ammo you can carry at all, and has a light speed penalty. Its special passive ability allows you to enter a heist with one additional tool of whatever tool type you may be carrying, and it's worth noting that this is applied before extra pockets. So if you're choosing to use something like the trip laser and you run extra pockets, you'll spawn in with 3 as opposed to the usual 1. At level 8, you'll unlock the Saboteur frame with 3 armor chunks, 3 consumable slots, an increased ammo capacity of 20%, and a medium speed penalty. The Saboteur's ability allows you to replenish a single throwable every 15 seconds if you're completely out and have none in reserve. Then at level 18, you'll unlock the Medtech frame. This one has space for 1 armor plate and comes with a reduced ammo capacity of 20% and a total of 4 consumable slots. It also has no speed penalty and grants you an additional 40 health points each time you use a first aid kit. Last but certainly not least, at level 34, you'll get access to the Mercenary frame, allowing you to bring 4 armor plates and an additional 40% increase to your ammo capacity. You can only carry 2 consumable slots with this one, and its passive ability allows you to restore 3 points of trauma damage whenever you take out an enemy. And of course, carrying around all of those plates in this frame, it comes with a heavy speed penalty. It's all quite self-explanatory besides for the speed penalties. What exactly is the difference between a light, medium, and heavy speed penalty? And how does this differ from having no speed penalty at all? Well, interestingly enough, I ran a little test, and candidly, I couldn't find a single frame difference between having a light speed penalty and no speed penalty, so maybe this just isn't working? There was, however, a half-second difference between the light speed penalty and the medium speed penalty, and then again another half-second for medium to heavy. This test was done with no skills at all, so of course you can tinker around with your speed a little further with skills like Swift or by simply having Rush. Something else I've only just noticed wasn't really working as intended, or at least it didn't seem to be, was the way in which different armor frames affect the amount of ammo capacity you have. As you can see in this clip, on the left I'm wearing the Medtech frame, which should reduce my ammo capacity by 20%, and on the right I'm wearing the Mercenary frame, which should increase my ammo by 40%. But in both clips I can't see a single difference in ammo capacity, let alone the 60% difference I'm supposed to be seeing. I don't want to spend too much time on all of the different armor setups that I've been using, as I believe a lot of the fun this new system brings is derived from jumping into the game and playing around with different combinations yourself. If, however, you'd like me to go through the armor setups that I found to be the most enjoyable to use and the best overall setups in the game from my perspective a little later after this update is out, feel free to let me know in the comments section down below, and while you're down there, if you are enjoying this video so far, all I ask is that you consider subscribing. Today is the very last day that we have to reach our goal of 5,000 subscribers before Payday 3's next heist releases, because Armour 2.0 and everything else we're going to discuss in this video, including the Party Powder heist, releases tomorrow on Monday. If we manage to reach 5,000 subscribers before then, I'm going to be going back to play and review all of the Payday 2 heists that were never released on console, and therefore I, as a console player, never had the chance to play. Just before we jump into discussing the Party Powder heist and difficulty balancing in Update 14, it's about time we talk about everybody's favourite secondary weapon. The Justicar revolver is the spiritual successor to the Judge from Payday 2. Making its way into the game completely for free, this pocket shotgun packs a similar punch to its predecessor. Unfortunately, as Payday 3 isn't made on the diesel engine, you won't be launching corpses as far as you would in the previous game, but it does still send enemies flying, even if it's not out of the stratosphere anymore. With that said, I'm hopeful that this is something that the modding community can achieve once they get their hands on this update. The weapon brings back the iconic silent killer suppressor, but actually I think it's more entertaining to run the obelisk, simply because it's longer and looks even more ridiculous. The weapon is just as spammable as it was back in the day, and can be added to the list of secondary weapons in Payday 3 that can one-shot almost every enemy. It even makes light work of dozers. The main drawback for using this legendary weapon is its ammo economy. You only start a heist with 40 rounds in total, and don't really receive all that much back from ammo pickups. This is a lot more noticeable in the harder difficulties, where the amount of ammo you receive from these drops has been reduced significantly in this update. As such, you won't be using this weapon all the time throughout a heist, but when you do, it is a bloody blast, and has instantly climbed the ranks to becoming my favourite secondary weapon in the game. And no, it's not just because of the cool reload animation or weapon inspect. It's particularly strong against shields as well, whose visor in this update has had its health increased, Heist. In general, it is now much harder to break through with regular weapons, but the Justicar makes light work of it. While we're talking about health increases and difficulty tweaks, it's worth noting that a lot has changed within Update 14, which makes the game quite a bit harder, especially if you're playing on the harder difficulties. For starters, and this is probably amongst the biggest and most requested difficulty tweaks Payday 3 has ever had, from now on, playing on Very Hard or Overkill difficulty with 3 or more players will increase the amount of enemies that can spawn. Unfortunately, timing didn't really work in our favour, so I don't think anybody actually got the chance to test how the game plays with these additional enemies. But I can say with at least some certainty that it will be a challenge, as myself and Seadog attempted a couple of heists recently and we weren't able to complete any of them on Overkill. This is obviously without the increased enemy spawns, as we were just 2 players at the time. A general increased enemy spawn count isn't the only way spawns have been tweaked though. The amount of special enemies that can spawn at a given time has also been increased. Of course, this stacks with the combat duo modifier, meaning up to 3 specials of each kind can enter the heist. Though funnily enough, the name and description of this modifier hasn't actually been updated. Surely it should be combat trio now, right? But regardless, you're going to be seeing a lot more dozers, techies, naders, and of course, cloakers. I mean, just take a look at this clip from my stream the other day. Oh, not the double dozers! I can't handle. I have to run. There's nothing I could do. No! Bot Dallas, save the day. Oh shit! Oh shit! Dwack! Survive! Holy shit!
God damn it.
Genuinely, okay? When I say this game has got a little bit harder, I really mean it with this update. I really mean it. And remember, that gets harder when you have 3 or 4 players in your lobby. Double nader, triple dozer, and cloaker and taser. Ridiculous. Ridiculous. For the record, I mean it's ridiculous in a good way. To round off the ways in which the game has got a little bit harder, as we touched on before, the ammo pickup rate on Very Hard and Overkill has been reduced quite heavily. In Very Hard, you'll be picking up roughly 1/3 less ammo than you would before Update 14. And on Overkill, the ammo pickup rate has been halved. This of course means you'll need to be slightly more aware of how many rounds you're using, but also means that skills like ammo funnel and replenish, in a roundabout way, have finally been nerfed. Now, running ammo funnel and replenish feels a little bit more like a slightly extended magazine, where you're likely to get off another 10 to 15 shots with most weapons before needing to reload, instead of completely removing the need to switch mags from the game entirely, as it kind of did beforehand. There have also been some buffs to certain skills like Assassin's Mettle, which now grants you 30 health if you're below 75% of your maximum HP, and 5 if you're over 75%, making the skill far more useful for replenishing health while you've got a single armor plate left. Pain Asymbolia has also received quite a significant buff, increasing the 10% damage reduction to your adrenaline by having edge, grit or rush all the way up to 40%. Now for crew AI. It seems like they've received a significant increase to their health, and more importantly, now when they drop a deployable in between assault waves, these deployables will have 4 charges instead of 2. And although I initially thought this would be added to the game by way of a crew AI skill system, I'm pleased to see that it's already here, even though I do still believe a crew AI overhaul is something that we will need in the future. There's also some other small but noticeable tweaks, such as the enemy sniper now seemingly doing a little less damage, but being able to shoot you more often and giving you less time to react to them before they pull the trigger. It also feels like you just take a little bit more damage in general. While I don't necessarily think the damage output of the enemies has been increased across all enemy types, it does feel like they hit you a little bit faster. Another small but impactful change comes in the form of the Overkill weapon delivery drone. This one is simple but very welcome. Essentially, now when you call in an Overkill weapon that isn't the sociopath baseball bat, a little friendly drone will bring you your weapon and drop it off pretty much right at your feet. This works indoors and outdoors. From what I've seen so far, the pathing of this drone is really well handled, and it will always make its way to you. Besides for the gameplay and in-heist related related changes, some other small but noticeable tweaks in this update are the slightly revamped UI elements, and the fact that your cosmetic choices can now be assigned to specific loadouts. Essentially, everything you customize on the loadout screen is now solely contained within that one loadout. If you want to set a different heister, or a different mask, or a different set of gloves for each different weapon or build that you may have, you can now do that to your heart's content. This obviously isn't something that's going to change the game too much, but it has been requested since the very early days of Payday 3, and it's nice to finally see it be implemented. I want to be very clear that everything we've spoken about in this video so far are changes and additions that I see as very positive for the game. Armour 2.0 is an excellent system, well worth jumping back into the game for. The Justicar is certainly something that I would encourage you to check out, and the balancing and difficulty tweaks mean that if you found the game particularly easy before, you might not necessarily find it such a walk in the park now. The reason I wanted to mention all of that is because we're now going to talk about the Party Powder Heist. I've already made a video focusing on the Party Powder Heist a couple of weeks ago, and I want to reiterate that a lot of what I shared in that video is still how I feel now. I don't think the heist is really anything special. It isn't bad, and it does play quite well, but I don't think you're going to really walk away from it feeling all that impressed. At least I certainly didn't. It is the first heist in Payday 3 that allows you to cook meth as an entirely optional side objective, and it does have a much more unguided structure that allows you to take on any of the 3 warehouses in whichever order you see fit. But I don't find the objectives that each warehouse offers particularly engaging, and when you consider that there's only really one warehouse that actually requires you to do something more interesting than just bagging up some loot just by inputting a pin code on a specific lockup gate, then there really isn't all that much too exciting about the heist. I could see this being a heist that you'll want to run every once in a while, but as the first paid heist since September last year, I don't really think it does all that much to warrant a price tag. Almost every objective in this heist is present in other heists besides for the optional meth cooking, which despite being a part of Cook-Off, hasn't actually appeared on any other heist, so I will give this heist credit for that. Even though the objectives in this heist aren't implemented poorly, not by any means, because so many of them have appeared in the game already, I find it hard to shake that feeling that I've already played this heist before. It does have some small elements of randomization to it, with there being a handful of different spawn points which might influence the order in which you approach the different warehouses, and there's a particular computer that you'll need to hack into which can spawn in one of 2 rooms, but other than that, I'm not really impressed with Party Powder. I said this in my full Party Powder video, but I'm really hopeful that once everyone has a chance to play Party Powder, I'll start to hear some more positive opinions on the heist, and maybe I'll warm up to it over time. I'd certainly like to, but for now, I don't think Party Powder is close to the highlight of this update. I completely acknowledge that this heist was made during a particularly difficult time for Starbreeze. There was a lot of uncertainty about Payday 3's future, and therefore likely not a lot of confidence to support the development of an in-depth heist, but I think it's important that even though I'm willing to take that into consideration, I need to be slightly more objective when looking at the heist itself. I'm very comfortable saying that I'm not satisfied with the heist, but I'm also not disappointed with the team's effort, as I don't think this heist's shortcomings are a result of a lack of creativity or a missing desire to innovate. But in the same breath, I'm not going to let my understanding for the circumstances in which the heist was made affect my slightly negative opinion of it. I'm not angry, I'm just disappointed. But I say that without all of the subtext that usually comes along with that statement. I know nuance is rare on the internet these days, but the fact of the matter is I'm disappointed with the heist, but I don't hold that against the developers. Now, why do I think Update 14 is indicative of the future of Payday 3, so much so that I've titled this video the way I have? Well, for those of you who may have been out of the loop since the last update, a lot has changed internally at Starbreeze over the last couple of months. Their publishing partner, Plyon, has stepped away from the franchise, leaving Starbreeze with 100% control over the publishing rights for Payday as a series. Immediately following this, the new CEO, Adolf Christensen, expressed that this leaves the company with the ability to create and release content at a faster rate. We know that there's another heist in development already that is likely near completion at this point, so I wouldn't wouldn't anticipate the wait between this update and the next one taking nearly as long as the time between update 14 and 13. We have already begun hearing what the team are working on, including a slightly more in-depth approach to the pre-planning asset system and a complete overhaul of the skill system, so I'm really hoping that the second half of 2025 is going to be a lot more action-packed than the first few months have been. As such, despite my personal dissatisfaction with this update's heist content in what could turn out to be a new era for the Payday franchise, I say the franchise as a whole because we also have reason to believe that there's going to be an update for Payday 2 at some point in the next few months. If you're interested in learning more about that and a lot of the other ways the Payday franchise is potentially getting back on its feet, you can click the video on screen now, and I'll see you in the next video.